Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com. Welcome back to my channel. If you would be so kind to give me a thumbs up and a like and a subscribe or whatever it is, I'd appreciate it. Today I think you're really going to enjoy the video. The topic is timing in interpretation. So how do you figure out timing when you're doing a tarot reading? Now I have over 300 videos and I don't think I have any on that topic. And I don't know how I didn't do a video on that topic. But I think probably when I've done demonstration readings, sometimes in those videos I'll make reference to a timing thing. But I don't think I've ever done a video just on timing. So today is the day I'm going to do it. So the deck that I'm using is a little bit of an atypical deck. It's a Mitelli deck created, I think, like 1660. It was an abbreviated deck of cards, which means certain numbers from the deck, from the pip sequence, were missing. And so in order to allow me to use my favorite deck as a tarot deck, my friend Shel David recreated, or not, he didn't recreate cards that were never existed, but he created cards that are missing in the sequence so that I could use it as a full tarot deck. So I appreciate that most sincerely. But I'm using that deck today for any of the little demonstrations that we're going to be doing. Now, one of the easiest ways to take care of timing in a question is to make it part of the framework of the question. Very early on, I learned that even if somebody asks a question that asks a million different things but never asks when, after you give them the reading, the first thing they might say is, well, when is this going to happen? Right? And it's just like, well, it wasn't part of the question. And but you can still go back and reverse engineer the spread and take a look and take a second look, right? But it wasn't really originally part of the question. So the cards maybe didn't necessarily comply with that aspect, which wasn't asked. So the way I remedied that would be, I ask questions in the framework. When I handle and mix the cards and go into my meditative place, I build into the framework of the question a time limit, usually 3 to 6 months, unless somebody asks for like the forecast of a year, in which case I would say within the year, or the time frame of a year. But I usually will build in something. If something should be resolved within 2 weeks, if an issue, it needs to be resolved within a couple of weeks, sometimes I'll say, the time frame of this interpretation or this question would be a few weeks' time or whatever. So you can do it that way. You can build it in. So if somebody asks a question and they want to know if something will resolve within a certain time frame, if you already build in that it'll represent 3 to 6 months, then you have your answer. It's, but it's kind of vague. It's not like pinpointing things. Sometimes it's helpful to have designations with the pip suits, because chances are when you do a spread, if it's 5 cards or 14 cards or whatever, chances are good that you're probably going to have more pip cards than you're going to have cards from the higher order, from the triumph cards. So it's helpful to utilize the pip cards as helping your understanding of time. Now let me flip the camera and show you a few things of what I mean. Okay, another thing you can do is associate the suits with seasons of the year. There are 4 separate suits, with the exception of the triumph cards, but there are 4 primary suits, and there are 4 seasons of the year, so why not take advantage of it? Now, you have to determine in your own mind what suit you might associate with winter. Just because I associate swords with winter does not mean I'm correct or that, it's the only thing to do. it's correct for me and it makes sense to me and it speaks to me, but it may not make sense or speak to you. And so you would need to determine for yourself, how you came up with what represents winter. Now, okay, you want to know why I chose it. Well, when I think of swords or I think of metal, I think of cold. I don't think of heat. I think of cold. I think of like sharp, I think of, being careful. So I associate those things with winter. Spring, I associate with cups, because after winter, the great thaw happens, and what was once ice and hard and frozen now becomes water. So I think winter, spring. I associate the batons with fire. Now I know we have fire in the winter, but I have spent so many formative years and happy years of, things with my family, camping, where and just sitting in the backyard around a fire, that it's a summer activity. So for me, very personally, batons, and I think of batons in this way as a cudgel, represent burning, and burning is sitting around a fire in the summertime. So that might really, be different from somebody who lives in the way north where they burn to keep warm, in the winter, right? So I think, it's a very personal thing, but that's my summer. And then fall, I think of, coins. Payday is kind of like the harvest, right? When you get your paycheck, and that the suit of coins is about money. So when you get your weekly paycheck, that's kind of a harvest time. So that's what makes sense for me. So I have winter, spring, summer, and fall. Now, if somebody asks a question and you're in the summer months and they want to know, let me flip the camera. So if we're in the summer months and somebody asks a question and then they want to know, they don't ask you when as part of the question, but, or maybe they do. Maybe they say, I need something to happen and, give me the details of how I could make it happen, right? And then tell me how long of a process this might be. So if you associate the suits, not just with a season, but with a sense of urgency, right? You can do that as well. So with the Ace of Swords, I denote it winter, right? But if you want to know about swiftness, it may be a little different, and so you can see the card not just as representing winter, but representing another concept, which for me means swiftness. If you're a fencer and you on guard, right, you have to be sharp and you have to have keen wit and you have to be quick, right? And, a sword can expedite a cut, right? I mean, nothing cuts to the quick like a blade, right? So I think of, the swords as very fast, the fastest in the suit, in the deck. Now, the second fastest for me would be batons, because I see them as aggressive suits, right? They're weapons, so they're assertive, right? So they're active. They usually, they can represent action. And, if you're looking at a sentence of cards, these cards might be the action, right? And the other two cards, which are, the other two deck suits, cups and coins, for me, are slower. They're passive. Water is faster than coin, but coin is the slowest. So I associate the weapons as the fastest pace, and the other two suits, the cups and the coins, as slower pace. And between the four of them, each card in each category is either, in first or second place. Okay, what's another way? So let's say somebody comes to you with a work-related problem. that in the workplace there's a very toxic individual who makes life a living hell for everyone. And she's made a few significant errors in judgment. And, nobody really can understand why she hasn't been fired. But, the rest of the coworkers are getting very upset and want something to be done about it. And this person is just asking, will anything be done of it? And how quickly will it be taken care of? That, she's given her walking papers. Now that's a fictitious question. I just came up with it on the fly, so I got lucky today. It's not a real question. It's not regarding anyone at all. Okay, so here we have the King of Cups. So it may be, the gentleman in charge is a pedantic individual, maybe the boss. Remember, we're looking in terms of timing, right? So we see the boss is slow, the suit of cups being a slower paced suit, right? So what I would see is like a sluggish boss. Could be man or woman, but if in this case, maybe it's a man. So there's a boss who's sluggish on the subject. A Four of Cups, suggests, number 4 for me means stability, real stable, nothing exciting about a Four of Cups, right? So, again, the king who's in charge is just a really slow on the subject of letting go of the subordinate. Okay, this is what I would say. So all these cards are the suit of cups. We have the boss and we have the subordinate, who's probably the one who's going to get his walking papers or her walking papers. So I would say, no, it's not going to happen too soon. There's going to be a process or whatever that it has to go through. And, the boss is kind of pedantic about it. So it's not going to be a quick moving thing, not as slow as maybe a year. But if you build into it that the question is going to answer the time frame of 3 to 6 months, you could say that. Or if you didn't do that, then you would say, well, I would say months, not days, not weeks, not years, but maybe a few months, Okay, let's see. What's another way? Okay, here's a question or a thought that a lot of people might relate to. You have a sibling. You're both adults, but you have a sibling that you're concerned about. Life is rough for that sibling, or whatever, and you just have a concern about that sibling, and you just want to know, will things work out for him or her? I know what I can do to help, and I'm doing as much as I can, but I just want to make sure that I just would feel reassured to know if his or her life will get back on track soon. So many of us have feelings of this regarding like children, or siblings or parents even. So, say another 3-card spread. So we have the Queen of Batons, fast-paced, not the fastest, but pretty fast-paced. We have Justice. So, Justice, the Triumph cards don't necessarily represent speed unless you look at the physical attributes. So we do see a sword, So we could look at the, batons and the sword and think of swiftness, swiftness coming about. And you can even interpret it with the Justice card also is like a swift push in the direction of things working out the way they should. And okay, another Triumph card. Unfortunately, when I want to show pips, they don't pop up, right? But then this card, actually this card is the Star card, not the Hermit card. In the Mitelli, which is interesting, and I've done a few videos on this, that I think at some point the Mitelli, which is the Italian, which is where tarot came to be, that the Star card, which this is in the Mitelli, somehow in the French cards became the Hermit. but that's neither here nor there. Okay, so then we have the star card, which is eternity, right? Which can speak about a very long period of time if we're talking about eternity. So, so we have a real conflict here, right? We have things looking like they could be swift and then for eternity. So you could say, well, things look like they'll get back to normal pretty soon, and it will be a permanent, it'll be a permanent remedy. So things will be good for a while. And the star card, how can you read it to be bad? I mean, the star card is a wonderful card. So I would be in the affirmative. This individual is going to be fine. And quickly, this individual will quickly get his or her life back on track, and it'll be fine. Let's say for, you could probably even come up with some kind of calendar spread. And I'm just doing this on the cuff. But say if you have positions for winter, spring, summer, and fall, right? Winter, spring, summer, fall, right? And a person's just coming in and asking when, so they don't really want an interpretive reading. Okay, I'm just making this spread up on the cuff. So, but say somebody, their question is when. Their question isn't, they don't give a rat's fanny about telling them how to do anything. They just want to know when. So if you designate, you say you have like a calendar kind of spread where winter, spring, summer, fall, and you lay 4 cards. Does this jibe with winter? Or does this jibe with, the Suit of Swords? I would say no. So that's a miss. I'm looking for cups here. Definitely does not jibe with cups. Even though it's not a pip card, it's the absolute opposite of water. So I would say no. We have a baton in the suit designated for batons. And we have the death card in the suit, in the part for coins, which is the slowest. So in a way, it answers the question of like coins being really, really slow, right? So we have two clues. We can either say in the summer, right? It happens in the summer. It matches with the summer. And certainly by the harvest, right? Because we have autumn. And this kind of agrees with autumn. So I'm going to interpret it as a card that I can use, right? So be like by the end of summer and the harvest or autumn. So that's when it's probably going to happen, right? So you could kind of make a calendar kind of spread. Let's see. You could also just look at the cards. So see what kind of clues we get. Okay, let's just do one more. The holidays can be a little bit of a sad time for some people who, if they are lonely or they're not near their family or their kids moved away and they no longer have, a spouse for whatever reasons. And sometimes the holidays can be lonely, So somebody, it's not unusual to get, a request. Will I have fun over the holidays? Will I be with my family, or will I enjoy who I'm with? Will I have something to do? Or explain my holidays to me. Now, this is not a when, but we'll say it's a when. We'll say, will I have someone special in my life by the holidays or for the holidays? So that gives us, now this is December. This is when I'm doing this reading. So that gives us a framework of a month, right? So within the month, will this individual likely have a special someone to spend the holiday with? Okay, so we have a lover card. Wow. So that, talk about timing. We're looking for swiftness, or in sequential time. But the first card we get is a lover card, which suggests very swift, right? Then we have the Pope. He's kind of pedantic, and the church takes thousands of years to change, right? So we're talking about a long period of time and a long-term investment of love. But we're looking for, and this is the Hermit card. This is the card that for the Mitelli deck designated for the Hermit, which clearly depicts old age, and wisdom with old age is a bit of a virtue. And the canes, because a lot of times many of us in older years end up with needing walking stick, right? So to me, this is like long, right? A long term. So the question, though, is will they have someone special for the holidays? And we're getting love for the long term. So I don't know to interpret that as, yeah, it's going to happen and it's going to happen for a long time. Or I don't know. I'm not sure how I would interpret that in terms of it looks like it will happen. And it will happen, for a long time. But I don't know if it answers the question, is it going to happen for the holiday? Or you can look at it completely different and have it be like, longing for something that just isn't seeming to be happening, because I see these as long term, right? Long period of time represented by those two cards in the context of time. So I guess I could go either way, I guess, if you want to get a more refinement, and these are all these are all like higher triumph cards. Wow, there's not even a pip in there. So what we could do is maybe just take their number and try to do a quintessential number, or just look at the number. So we have 6 and 5 is 11, and 11 and 9 is 20. So that would be the Sun card. So that would be a most optimistic card. If I can find it quickly. So it would be a most optimistic card. So that just really, lends one to believe that a wish will come true. I saw the Sun card and I was wondering if something would happen for somebody. I think I'd pretty confidently say, yeah, I think it's going to work out for you by the time period that you want. I think that is the Sun card. I think they use Apollo for the Sun card. Let me just make sure. But I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's the Sun card. Yep. Yeah, it's got to be. Okay, so the Sun card. Well, it's most optimistic. So so this was about timing. Like, will somebody find something, or have a partnership or something for the holiday? So we have kind of a reinforcement of the love and long term, and then that kind of a reinforcement of the way I've interpreted it first, because you can't get much more optimistic than the Sun card. So, and they're both angels, right? They're both. Oh no, he's not an angel. That's Apollo. He's not an angel. But they're both very special, right? So yeah, I think that answers that question. And are there any other ways? Let's say we do one more. Let's say we just do a 9-card spread. And I'm not even giving it a question. We're just going to look for clues for timing. Now, one thing you could do in a 9-card spread is designate about one line will speak about time. So you can build it in that way. So you could say the top line will address the sequence of time, and then the other lines can mean something else. You could do it that way. Or we could just take a look at the number of the distribution of the pip cards and the other cards to see if we can get like a sense of time. So we have the wheel, the sun, and we have 4 of swords. So if we designated this for time, to me, the wheel suggests time, cycles. You know, the sun card represents the ideal. And then the sword, you know, and that's a relatively high number. What's the number here? A 4. Oh, it's just a 4. So, swift, but maybe not too swift. But let's look at the whole spread. Okay, so now we have okay, we have a baton. So we have 2 suits. Really, we have two fast suits. You know, if we're looking at the pips, we have the swords and we have the batons. And we have another baton. Swords. Coins. And then the card that we typically associate with the hangman. This was a form of punishment for the same crime of either theft or betrayal or something like that. Okay, so this card, you know, talks about finality, right? And it comes after a card that's slow. There's only one card of the suit of coins, but it's a high number, so it shows like a long time, right? But these other cards, and I guess we can turn over cards that like don't seem to answer the question. But what we do have is 1, 2, 3, 4 cards of a swift suit. This one is a slower suit, and it's a slower card. And this one is a triumph card, and it, you know, it just suggests finality, right? The wheel just shows nothing is stagnant, stuff moves. Time can pass slow. It could have that kind of connotation, but it changes. And the 7, a chariot, definitely addresses advancement. So I would say, yeah, based on this, it looks like a relatively quick process. There may be some aspects that have to be addressed to get over, but, you know, taking care of dotting your I's and crossing your T's, it looks like a swift process. I don't even remember what the question was, if we had a question for that. And I don't know. I think I've... let's do one more. Let's do one, and with the idea of they ask a question, and then you answer the question, and then afterwards they want to know about time. But because we didn't really ask time in it in the first place, we didn't necessarily build in, you know, a period of time in the framework, which is why you should always do that, just a couple weeks, couple months. But say somebody, I forget what I just said, somebody wants to know if something's going to play out, and then they want to know after the fact, they want you to look back at the cards if you got a sense for when this may happen. Now say you get the request for the reading in, say it's summertime, so say it's summer, and we're going to lay a few more cards. So we have a card that represents, to me, summer, the heat of summer, and the coolness of winter, or but it can also represent swiftness also, right? So if it is summer and somebody wants to know, if they're asking a question how something's going to play out, I would say it's going to play out rather quickly, and it will probably play out in the summer that we're in, because I see batons as the summer. I see the fire as the summer, right? And then I see swords, meaning swift, you know? So I see quickly, you know, maybe the 3rd week into summer, or maybe in 3 weeks. But I see something happening before the season of summer is over. Let's say it's still summer and somebody else has another question about when something is going to happen. because sometimes it's just helpful to take into consideration the time of year it already is. So we have the page of coin, which would be autumn as far as how I see it. We have another card of coin, right? And then we have temperance, which is a water-bearing image. But I would say, well, based on here, it'll be resolved by autumn. It'll happen by autumn, right? And maybe this is a clue to something else that might have meaning to the individual. But it neither adds nor takes away. It's, if anything, it's, slow, because I associate water with a little slowness, So, I would see these as being autumn and taking its time. So if it's summer, it'll be like you'll enjoy summer before this is over. Sorry about that noise. It's probably a good time to call it a day. So I apologize for that sound, but every now and then the township decides they can't have leaves on the street. They come around and blow them away. Anyway, I hope that this, impromptu video helped a little bit in taking the mystery away of timing. I've probably forgotten a lot of things to show you, but if I think of them, I'll just do another video as a part 2 of timing. But hopefully I gave you some ideas on how to look at the cards to answer the concept of time relative to the question being asked. Until next time, friends, peace and stay well.